Okay, my Married at First Sight Australia fans, I told you I was going to drop this particular interview by Janelle Han from the Australian season number 10, as we just came off of that whole crazy dinner party where Adam and Claire and this cheating scandal against Jesse and of course his wife Janelle. Well, she decided to do a very candid interview where she slammed Adam, saying a lot of different things. Now, I already dropped the other video and that was yesterday. I'll link it to this video where Adam actually decided to speak out, saying that she was lying and that, Claire made more advances. I'm not going to give that all away. Go over there and check that out. However, I wanted to share with you guys what she had to say in this candid interview. Welcome back to Romance Review TV. It's Lady T, and I got another update video for you guys regarding Married at First Sight Australia Season 10 Janelle. And without further ado, I'm going to let you guys check this out, and we'll be back later to talk about it. Also, I got to give the credit and send a shout out to the podcast We've Done the MAFS. I'll link that in the description because this entire interview was actually about 30 minutes plus. I only got the snippets, so go over there and check out the rest. But again, we'll be back.
Today, we have our first ever guest, the wonderful bride, Janelle.
The tea.
I was absolutely shocked. We talk all things intimacy week, aka fuck week.
That phone call.
Oh my gosh, that horny photo shoot. We need to get into it. Her fuck, marry, leave answer.
I can't.
I was so shocked. You know what? Let's just get her on right now.
Let's do it.
Welcome, Janelle from MAFS.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh my gosh, so this is your first podcast.
It is. I'm like, this is surreal. This is so professional.
Oh my
I love
gosh.
it.
Beauty influencer from West Oz.
Yes. Good old Perth.
How is that career? Like, how do you get into something like that? YouTube, Instagram?
I do Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've been doing it full time for about a year now. Before that, I was a makeup artist. I finished my degree in uni and I worked at Mac as a trainer for a bit as well. So I really just fell into this job. I don't know how I do it. I'm like, this is weird.
And sitting across from the couch from you, stunning. Absolutely stunning. You guys can tell beauty influencers.
But every episode, you are just bringing it. I am living for your outfits, for your looks. Everything is amazing. But one thing I wanted to ask you, obviously I recap every episode of this show for Pedestrian TV. And one thing that I noticed that I haven't seen before is they said that the Married at First Sight experts actually reached out to you.
Oh, actually, I read that article.
Hey!
That was a good article.
That's a good question. Actually, I applied. But it's a really funny story. Mm-hmm. So what happened was I had ended a long-term relationship, but it's one of those relationships where you check out way earlier than you really think you have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And The Bachelor reached out to my social media agency. And so I was like, okay, well, YOLO, I'm going to do it. I'm single now. I clearly don't know how to choose my man. So I applied for Bachelor and I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to apply for Bachelor, I'm going to apply for the show that I actually watch, which is Married at First Sight. And so I actually got onto both of them. I know, it was crazy. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this once in a lifetime experience, I want to at least, if I can't find love, I want to at least learn something about myself. And I think MAFS is a really good experiment that'll teach you a lot about yourself and put you in this position where you do things that you're not used to doing. So yeah, that is how I applied.
I have to ask more questions. This is so interesting to me. I'm a little bit of an entertainment.
Oh, I'm a reality whore.
Yes. I wanted to say whore, but I'm like, is this politically incorrect these days? I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. So what I wanted to ask you is that for the 3 Bachelors? That's the one you were meant to be on?
That's the one. I reckon I would have gotten paired with Felix because I play basketball.
And would you have liked him?
Definitely not.
Right? The worst. But this is really interesting because there's a lot of Batchy MAFS crossovers this year.
Isn't there?
Jessica, that was at Bronte's wedding. And there was Abby, right? The one that Harrison has been seeing, not sleeping with the day that he is leaving for MAFS, the whole shebang.
I don't know the truth.
Oh, God. It's a nightmare.
So I'm not too sure if you're aware, but your write-up on the MAFS website describes you as bossy, clingy, and short-tempered. How much of that is true? Have they just ran with that? Did you give them those props?
To be honest, I was really surprised when I saw that write-up and I was like, oh, whatever. I did mention it in a few of my casting interviews because I mentioned it was potentially the reason why my last relationship ended. But upon reflecting, I don't know if that's the case.
That's what I was
not.
going to... Are you being harsh on yourself right now?
Well, like, I'm not afraid to talk about what my weaknesses are. And if that's what my weaknesses are, then so be it. But I don't, like, all my friends read it and they were like, Janelle, that's not actually true. But I'm like, oh, whatever.
You're just going through, you're in the thick of heartbreak and you're like, oh.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Using bossy for a woman, I resent that.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, there's a difference between bossy and self-assured. And I'm like, well, if it's self-assured, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it because everyone is dying to hear about you and Adam. But the one question we still can't wrap our head around is, what does Adam actually do for work? Did that ever get resolved?
Oh, to be honest, I'm still not 100% sure what he does for work. He wasn't very good at explaining it. And I don't know, like in my circle of friends, talking about career is very normal. It's not an offensive thing to ask, but it seemed to be offensive to him. From what I had gathered, in the past, he has had experience in real estate, construction. Apparently he worked in like a COVID clinic at one point. From what I've gathered, he has a lot of jobs, but he doesn't have a career. And I don't think he knew how to answer that.
Yeah.
So,
but also the way that he was defensive, right? It spoke
was
volumes. And you said, you know, look, I think this is quite a normal question. And you're right, it is.
Thank you.
But it was the way that he was really pushing back and going, why, you know, it just showed so many insecurities on his behalf.
And that's exactly right. Like I learned really early on that the way he communicates is different to how I communicate. He does jump on the defense, jump on the sensitivity, and like throughout the experiment, I had to stay really calm in these conversations. Otherwise, it was just going to be this explosive fight. Yeah, honestly, it was really shocking. Like, I didn't know how to steer the conversation in the right direction either. Because I'm like, I've never had someone act like this when I asked about career.
Well, clearly you were successful before going on the show. Do you think maybe he was slightly intimidated?
I definitely thought that. I mean, I thought, you know, maybe he's used to being like a breadwinner or maybe used to being the extroverted, self-assured one. And I don't think he knew how to handle someone who was a bit more independent. So, yeah, I think as well, he has a lot of pride. And when someone dares to dent the pride, it's like...
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but do you kind of get like wannabe influencer vibes from him?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen his Instagram? Someone had to say it.
Right? What makes you think that?
Oh, no.
Well, he did tell me, like, during the honeymoon that he's done a lot of reality shows before. Yeah, so he's been on, I think he even said he's done like 10 in the UK, because in the UK it's very easy to do that. And so I'm like, okay, maybe this is why he doesn't have a career. He really wants to be famous. I'm not sure. Like, this is the only one I've ever been on. So I was like very new to it all. But no, it was...
Whoa, how's that for manifestation? He's gotten it. Wow.
Did you say to him, like, what's the go?
No, I just think he wants to be famous. I'm not sure.
Well, he's going to get it, isn't he? So speaking of your honeymoon, you guys went to Cairns.
Yes.
But other people got to go internationally.
I'd be off it, babe. I'd fucking flip my lid.
Look, Cairns, I'd never been to Cairns before, so I was happy about that. I was like, at least I got to leave Sydney. Like, that's fine. And when we went to Cairns, the weather was not great. And I had like kind of dug it out of the producer. I was like, what would have happened if we were in Cairns and the weather was good? Like, there was potential for seeing the reef. There was potential for helicopter rides. So I was like, you know what? The thought was there. But Cairns was still beautiful.
Yeah, but when you guys were swapping stories, like, you know, just before you were filming and you're like, oh, babe, where'd you go? This bitch says Fiji. Are you steaming? No, Fiji was okay. I could let that one go. But when I heard that Sandy went to Singapore, I was like, no. Yeah. Like, that is where my parents are from. Singaporean food would have been the jam, but it's okay. I'm grateful that I even got to go anywhere. Yeah. Because some people stayed in Sydney, so... Yeah. But yeah, we saw that and we were like, far out. When did this? I think the budget starts to trickle out.
Yeah, they got them.
I feel like my wedding though looked super expensive, so maybe there was a bit of a balance there.
Gorge.
Well, fast forward to now. How do you think you and Adam are going in the experiment at this stage?
Me and Adam are doing really well in the experiment. I think me learning how to communicate with his style I was getting better at it, and we we were really like a married couple at this point. We were doing everything together. We were shopping together, watching the NFL together. Like we were so comfortable. And what people don't realize is that you spend 24/7 with your husband or wife. Like you trust them just because you're together all the time. And you don't get to really speak to the other couple. So yeah, we were basically each other's best friend at this point. Yeah.
And I guess you're both going through something that you've never gone through. Oh, well, Adam, 10 times. So, for you, it's a brand new experience. So it must be nice just to have that place of comfort every single day.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's the thing. You have not really anyone else to talk to in the experiment. So that familiarity, that trust, it comes with it.
Obviously, you guys have had a few hurdles
Just
along the way. So I feel like the Adam and Claire rumors, right? Like it felt like a big thing and then it was swept under the rug. Where do you sit on it? Do you feel like there's any truth to it, or is that the end of that story?
Well, the whole thing about all that was the accusation that I had heard at the time, especially during the phone swapping, was that he was on the phone to Claire. But I knew he wasn't on the phone to Claire because as soon as Adam got home from the bar, I was with him on the couch. We were cuddling, we had wine, we were watching a movie, we were calling Linda and Cam. So I knew he wasn't on the phone to Claire. I was with him the whole time. So when the whole accusation came out, like why wouldn't I trust him? Because I knew the accusation was false. But I mean, looking back at the phone swap challenge, I'm such a freaking idiot.
We have questions. If you could do your time over, or let's say you guys are in a normal relationship, homeboy leaves his phone out, on the upside, unlocked. Are you looking through it?
No, I couldn't.
Have you not ever done that to a boyfriend?
Never. I've always been in really loyal relationships. I've never been cheated on before. So it was like not something that I had on my radar. And it just feels wrong to me. Like my guilty conscience would have been like, nah, don't do it. But I mean, looking back, I would have definitely loved to have pushed it a bit more to see his phone, especially because I didn't see how guilty he looked at the time. He looked guilty.
Babe, in our last episode, we were just saying you could watch the relief fly off him.
Yes, definitely. But I think how I was feeling then was, as you can see with the whole what is your career, he's so triggered so easily that I really had to pick my battles. I really had to choose when to poke the bear, and I just became a doormat because I know it's so sad, like I'm such a strong person, but he really at the time made me feel like I couldn't speak up and question things, otherwise I would take the brunt of it, which is really sad. But it was a good learning curve for me.
Yeah, it's something Jules and I have spoken about as well, like, men that do get quite defensive, you kind of see women's light go out quite a bit. But looking back on the phone challenge, do you think that he played that situation or kind of manipulated you at all?
Oh, 100%. That was like reverse psychology. I was like, am I that dumb? I completely got gaslit. Like, it was crazy.
Is it hard when you're at home? Do you watch it on your own every night or with someone?
I try to watch it with someone, but I do watch it on my own. I have the live Reddit thread on my phone as I'm watching it.
Are you kind of triggered all over again with those emotions watching it back, or do you feel more intensely about it watching it back?
Oh, definitely. I think especially because I know I'm guilty of letting people walk all over me. I've had ex-friends in the past use me for clout, ex-friends, just taking over my generosity. And I think watching it happen on screen it's a big wake-up call. And that is one of the things that I did learn from this experiment, is like learning how to not be a pushover and being taken advantage of. It was hard to watch.
One more thing on the phone scandal, if you will, before we move on, is there was a lot of he said, she said around what Jesse did when he came to your room. Can you kind of set the scene for us and let us know what happened, or do you feel like we've gotten that story already?
Well, Jesse came to our room, I think it was between like 12:30 to 1:30, and he came in, he was super angry. I opened the door and he just goes, "Where's Adam?" And I'm like, "Oh, over there." And he just walks right past me, staunchy, and just goes up to Adam, let me see your phone. And I'm just like standing near the bed being like, oh my God, what is happening? And Adam is just like, mate, what's going on? Like, do you want to sit down? Like, what's going on? And we knew this was like well, for me, I'm like such a rule follower. I was like, there's no cameras here. Like, are we even allowed to be doing this? Like, are we allowed to talk? Like, this is off camera. And Jesse just walks right past me and goes straight to Adam. And he's like, let me see your phone. Let me see your phone. And Adam's trying to dissolve the situation, being like, come on, Jesse, sit down. Like, let's have a talk. And the whole time I was just shocked. Like, I just didn't know like what to do. To be honest, I was scared that they were going to fight because Jesse looked angry. And when he left, like me and Adam were just like, what is going on? What is going on? But I had no inkling of doubt at all because me and Adam were literally like cuddling on the couch all night. We were even intimate that night. So
intimate. I love the way you guys always say intimate.
We had sex.
Thank you. Finally.
So I mean, that's why I didn't have suspicions because I was like, well, we're normal, we're good, we're progressing. Like there's nothing for me to suspect.
Yeah. So speaking of intimacy, or speaking of having sex, I need to talk to you about the sexy photo shoot.
Oh my God.
How does this happen? Was it a task? Did you guys just go, you know what? Let's whip out the camera, babe. How did this happen?
Oh, I couldn't believe it because every couple gets a different task. And when I went to the cocktail party, me and Adam found out we were the only one that got that task. And so we got so stitched up. But it was really, really fun because it was a task that made us feel really comfortable around each other, which we already were, but it was kind of like one of those tasks that make fun and really enjoy each other's like bodies, I guess. But no, it was a good task. I made him squish tomatoes over his face.
Look, I saw this, and as someone that's been to La Tomatina before, it was deeply triggering for me. I could smell it, I could feel it. What's sexy about squishing tomatoes, babe? I don't know.
Look, I just really wanted to see him do something funny. He made me eat a banana, and he took a photo of it. So I feel like that's worse.
You know what? He embarrassed you on national TV too. So
yeah, he did.
How on earth do you complete Intimacy Week knowing that all of that is going to be aired on national TV? Like, did you guys have to do a huddle and were like, let's just fucking do it. Let's just get this over with and do it. Or are you actually having fun in the moment?
I'm having fun. I'm not ashamed of it at all, especially because I think being sexually positive is so important for women in this day. And I think especially for my culture, and I wanted to be a voice for people of my culture to be comfortable talking about sex. Like, I grew up in such a conservative household. My mum's sex talk didn't exist. This is how my mum told me about periods. She said, if you pee blood, let me know. So yeah, I know. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I had no knowledge, and I went to a Catholic school, so sex talk was just not a thing there either. So growing up, I really wanted to make it normal, and so yeah, I was fine with it. But you know, one of our challenges was to make out for I think 3 or 5 minutes. I couldn't do that. I just not with people around. I was like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, well, how many people are in the room with you?
Well, you've got a crew, and which is totally fine. Like, you know, me and Adam make out all the time, but I couldn't do it around people.
Can I ask? You guys leave now so we can
continue. I guess so, but you know, it's just it's a really weird situation to be in. Like, I can't even kiss ex-partners with family around, let alone like strangers.
Yeah. We've loved witnessing the strong girl code displayed throughout this season. Do you find it difficult withholding info you know could really potentially hurt another bride?
Oh, definitely. And that question is, yeah, it's a big one, because when you go into the experiment, you think, okay, I'm going to be committed to this partner. This partner is the person that I'm going to be putting all my energy into. But what people don't realize is that when you're on this experiment, it's like you actually have to be involved in everyone else's relationship, because it's a group setting as well as a partner relationship. So that's something that I hadn't wrapped my head around going into it, because I thought I was just going to be putting 100% into that relationship. I didn't think I was going to be involved in anything. So when it came to, for me, I always want to do the right thing by everyone. And so when I get wrapped up in drama, I'm like, okay, what is the best outcome? How can I do this? How can I do things that is right by the right people? And so, especially so early on in the experiment, you don't know who are your friends yet. And that's what makes it even harder.
Well, I saw you at the dinner party. You were so stressed out about this information, which is still confusing to me. This story where, you know, you thought you heard something about Dan, but actually it was about Harrison. Can you tell us how this communication kind of got mixed up along the way?
I had the biggest moral dilemma during that moment. So what happened was Adam and Harrison were on the phone, and Adam was talking to Harrison. Harrison had mentioned that Dan got a girl's number, and I was across the other side of the room. Mind you, we're staying in like these tiny studio apartments. I can hear everything, and I'm just sitting there going, what? Because Adam just looks at me. He gives me this like crazy face, and I'm like, what? And he's like, no, I can't tell you. But eventually what happened was Harrison was then on loudspeaker, and I was actually talking to Harrison myself for a few moments too. So when I heard this, I was like, okay, like what do we do in this situation? Because I don't want to ruin Adam's friendship with Harrison. So I was like, if I spread this news, it now ruins Adam's friendship. But if I don't spread this news, then I'm doing wrong by Sandy, who at that point I loved Sandy, and she really like stood up for me in a lot of situations. So I was like, what do I do? Like, do I put my relationship first, or do I put girl code first? So yeah, it was a lot.
That seems to be the common dilemma, especially for this week. Lyndall and Cam as well.
Yeah.
Did you kind of find that the girls were more outspoken, and I keep yelling at the screen, God, these boys don't have a spine? Did it feel like that at the time? Because it looks like that as a viewer.
100%. That vibe in the experiment was definitely there. There was definitely like this like boy club vibe where you don't betray the boys. It's not all the boys, that's for sure. But I mean, you can definitely tell who the boy club was. I think even just watching it. And the girls definitely had each other's back. That's for sure. I think for me personally, though, I kind of walked into the experiment thinking, for me, it's not a gender thing. It's not a girl code. It's not a boy code. I'm going to be there for the person who's in the right, the person that needs the support. So I think a few other girls thought that too.
Because it's just a common decency thing, right?
It's a common decency. Like, I'm not going to have someone's back just because they're a female. I'm not going to have someone's back just because they're a male. Like, it's going to be whoever's, right in the situation.
It's not your fault that there's so many shitty men on this season.
I cannot believe it. And especially watching it, you don't, like, you hear about these things, but you don't see it. So watching it, I'm like, oh my God, what are these men thinking?
Totally.
How are you older than me?
Yeah.
Men. So I think one man in particular this week that's really gotten everyone riled up, and last week, is Shannon. And, you know, speaking about girl code, how hard is it for you to sit there and watch Caitlin go through what she's going through?
Well, at the time, none of us had seen it. Like, that all happened, you know, it didn't even happen in dinner parties or commitment ceremonies when we can see each other. So at the time, none of us knew it was that bad. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, watching it back, I'm like, oh my God, this man has no filter. He is not thinking things through. So yeah, I mean, we all feel terrible for Caitlin. The poor girl got stitched up.
Was it hard for you guys? You know, you all become such good friends. You must meet these women and they're just so vivacious and confident at the hens party. And slowly but surely, their light starts to go out. You would have seen it with Caitlin, Bronte. Is it hard to sit back and watch that? And did you notice it at the time?
I definitely noticed at the time. And honestly, it was happening to pretty much all the women because the men didn't want the women to speak up. And we all became silenced. I mean, I definitely was silenced as well. Like, the fact that I even had to ask my husband if I could say something to Sandy, like, you know, in real world, like in outside world, in my everyday world, I would have just done it. So it's hard to watch.
Okay, so we're back, and shout out to We Have Done the MAFS podcast. They did an excellent job with this interview, so I want to make sure they get their credit, and the link is down in the description. So it looks like, I guess, from the whole perspective, and this is not the entire interview. So if you want to hear the rest, also go over to their podcast to actually hear everything that she had to talk about. I just wanted to give you pretty much what we have been dealing with this past week. So as we heard, you know, Janelle accused her husband of going on the show for fame after he cheated on her with, of course, Claire. Now, she also expressed her frustration with Adam's lack of career ambition and refusal to take ownership of his actions. She also said that she was refusing to be gaslighted into believing that she was wrong. And now we did, like I said, I did that video yesterday where we saw Adam attempt to try to clear his name by saying that it was Claire that instigated the kiss and that there were also other advances. So you got to check that out as well. Another thing she did also go into is speaking on that whole Harrison and Dan fiasco with that whole who got the phone number situation. And that was pretty interesting to say the least. And of course, we ultimately found out who was actually behind that. Then she also talked about the girl code situation. Now, in one breath, she did say that, these men need to have a spine. But then in another breath, she also said that the men kept them silent. Okay, so I don't know, make that make sense. I don't know if you guys see it differently. Let me know down in the comment section. Also, too, the girl code in regards to Sandy, because she was like, oh, Sandy always had my back and all of this. There was leaked, and I did that recap of that update earlier last week, where it came out that Sandy actually knew what happened between Adam and Claire because she witnessed it and said nothing, and she sat on that information. So I don't know if Janelle had finally heard about that or even seen those things that production leaked her journal entries and different messages and text messages that was released showing that she actually had communication with Adam and then of course kept it quiet. So I don't know. A lot goes on with this show and behind the scenes, but that's interesting. Australia is off the chain. Usually with the craziness, it puts the U.S. version, make it look like Sleepy Town, in my opinion. But we also have the most marriages that come from the U.S. version because a lot of them are legally married, which of course they only have a ceremony over there because Australian laws wouldn't allow them to get legally married on the show. So maybe that's the difference. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section about what Janelle had to say. I'll link those other videos and the link to the podcast as well down in the description. And until the next update, because I like to keep you guys updated, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye.